when Obama was elected, and suddenly America's not a racist country anymore. You know,
Right.
racism doesn't exist. So, yeah, I'm not under any delusion that anything I can do will make it evaporate.
Hey, Brandon.
Hey, how are you guys?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for moving this back a couple minutes. My meeting earlier was running long.
No worries at all. Happy to do it.
Thank
How are you
you.
this morning?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thanks. Yeah.
Very cool.
Where are you?
Nashville.
Okay. All right.
Where are you?
LA.
Okay.
Yeah. I kind
I'm
of bounce back and forth.
Yeah, I'm from San Diego originally. I just moved out here a little over a year ago. So.
Oh, cool. How do you like Nashville?
I love it. I love it. I'm south in the burbs, but my family and I we're huge fans. Just more land and it's just a totally different vibe than California and San Diego, which is all we know. And we've we both, my wife and I, are from California and never lived anywhere else. So.
Wow. Well, that's awesome. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, this podcast is about you and your. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Caitlin. This is a podcast about you and your journey in music, and we'll talk about your new album.
Cool. Sounds great.
Sweet. So you're originally from Chattanooga? Is that what I read?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me about born and raised there.
Yeah, I grew up just right outside of Chattanooga in Georgetown. And yeah, I mean, I spent my whole life there. I ended up leaving to move. I moved to Nashville at 18. I went to Belmont.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There. Yeah, and then stayed in Nashville for a little while, and then headed out to New York for about 3 years, and then moved out to LA after that.
Wow, very, very cool. Just for listening to your songs, man, like what a journey it sounds like you've had, and just like I just listened to Hurt People. Wow, what a powerful song.
Yeah, I mean, it has definitely been a ride.
Yeah.
It is. But it's I always say this to people. It's like, the ups and downs are kind of what make you who you are. And I definitely would not be the person I am without having had gone through those, certain things in my life. So despite how bad they were and how hard they were for me, I end up feeling very grateful for them because they turned me into this person. So
do you feel like it kind of pushed you towards wanting to be more, like really wanting to succeed, like I'm going to show them type mentality?
Not really. I don't, surprisingly, I don't feel that way. I think the overwhelming feeling I get is that I think when I was really little, I'm one of 5 kids, and I was always very taken care of. And my mother had this strength about her. So did my dad to an extent. And I had very strong-willed sisters. And just everyone had I felt growing up had this strength to them that I just didn't feel like I had. And I wanted it. But I had no care in the world, really. I was the 4th of 5, and I was just very taken care of. And so when I came out, and it felt like all of the support and the structure that I had my entire life just fell out from underneath me. It was kind of like, okay, this is your moment. Like, what are you made of? And that's when I ended up moving to New York and really kind of cutting my teeth as an adult in a really tough city.
The toughest.
But I just I made it work, and I figured it out, and I learned a lot, and I learned a lot about myself, and no one was holding my hand, and it forced me to just really take a look at myself and who I wanted to be, and and prove to myself that I could do it at a really young age. I mean, I was 22, 23 years old, and I feel like I was going through maybe like what most people would call like a midlife crisis in their early 20s.
Yeah.
Because I mean, one of the crazy things that, you know, it is literally an insane thing that people do when queer people come out. I don't speak for everyone, but this happened a lot to me where people would say, "Who are you? Like, what, you know, what are you? Who do you want to be? I have to know." Like, and it was like this, you're like, I'm 21, I'm 22, I don't know. Like, who are you?
Exactly.
But I mean, I think because that was demanded of me at such a young age when I came out, because it was somehow so confusing to everyone that they had a queer brother, sister, friend. You know, I've been dancing around since I was a child. Like, open your eyes, people. Yeah, so I don't know. I think through the whole process, I gained this, you know, this knowledge that I could make it, and I could, you know, take care of myself, and that was, and you know, it has been invaluable to me. So yeah, I feel really grateful for.
Well, it's super inspiring. I mean, I will tell you that. I mean, that's, yeah. I mean, to be that young and then to have, like you said, everything kind of your support fall out from under you and go to New York City, which obviously is difficult for anyone, and take that route. I mean, like, very inspiring.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The New York thing was so, you know, I don't know that I would choose that again because it was really tough. But I went there for, and this is going to sound so kind of stupid, but I wanted to be around gay people because I grew up, you know, in the sticks in Tennessee, and then
even in Nashville. I mean, recently moving here, it's total. I don't know. I mean, it feels different than it did when I lived in San Diego. I mean, growing up in California.
Well, and I lived there in like 2000, from 2005 to 2010. And I mean, like, I always felt like I just was uncomfortable. You know, I just always felt like I was kind of looking over my shoulder, and I felt uncomfortable. And there weren't a lot of openly gay people that I knew. So, yeah, I just wanted to be around people like me. And, well, I got that in handfuls and helpings when I moved.
Was that good? I mean, did you feel like you were able to build a community pretty quickly that way?
Yeah, I mean, it was nice to just like feel like connected in that way, but it really wasn't until I moved to LA that I felt like I really had like a good community. New York's just a tough place. Like,
okay.
It is, and LA can be that way too. And a community is kind of like the saving grace. It's like if you fall, depending on just where you fall and like the community that you're able to kind of build up around you, will determine whether the city is worth living in or not. Like,
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I just didn't really have I had friends in New York, but I just didn't have a great community there. And I had the exact opposite experience in LA, which is, you know, 90% of the reason I love it so much.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, that's amazing. So growing up, were you singing at a very early age? How did you get into music?
Yeah, I started singing at 5 and 6. I sang at the church that I grew up in. And then Opryland, USA used to have a big theme park in Nashville that I used to work at as a kid. And
you'd go from Chattanooga to Nashville to work?
I would. Yeah. My parents drive me back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And man, I don't know how they did it. My mother was a kindergarten teacher. So, she taught till 3, and then we would get in the car and drive to Nashville. I would play a show that night, and she would get in we'd get back in the car at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, drive back to Chattanooga and do it all
again. Which
again.
isn't super close, right?
It's like 2.5 hours.
It's not farther than going down to Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of wild. Like, I think back on that and I'm like, how did I convince them that this was like a thing that we should do? But I did that. We did that kind of traveling from the time that I was 6 years old until I was about 13.
Wow.
And then, so years and years of doing this. And then when I when I was 14, I went to a private, used to be military prep academy in Chattanooga, and there was no time to do any of that. So I just kind of hunkered down and went to high school, and then moved to Nashville to go to school, to go to college.
But you went to, what's interesting is you went to Nashville to pursue music, and it wasn't something you're really able to do much in high school. Were you able to like write or play, or like how were you kind of navigating that, not being, it sounds like it wasn't something that they didn't have a choir, or, you know, something that you could have an outlet to?
Well, actually, so I did. I had it was funny. I sang in the choir in high school, and then
okay, so they did have choir and everything.
We did. But I didn't sing for like the student body until I guess my junior year or so. So I think people were very confused as to why I was getting up and grabbing a mic. And it was a lot of fun. I sang it I don't think I've ever even told this story. I sang it like we inducted a new headmaster. And so somehow I was asked to sing and sang this song, and then the entire student body just stands up. And I just remember this because I had never like opened my mouth to sing for years, really, other than just singing in the choir. Because not to diminish public schools in Tennessee, because my mother was a public school teacher for 30 years at a great public school in Tennessee. But when I say I was ill prepared to go to this private school, I was ill prepared. So my first 2 years there, I was just like, I was playing catch up with all of these kids that had been in private school their entire life. So I was not focused on music. I was just head in books and trying to like stay afloat. So once I kind of like allowed myself to breathe again as a junior, I got this chance to sing. And I just remember that moment, the entire student body of, I don't know, 1,000 people just standing up to cheer.
That must have feel so good though. What an amazing, like, yeah.
There are moments, I think we all have, well, at least I hope we do. I've had several in my life where you just get these like little nice reminders that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, right?
Right, like a quick, like a validation, like, wow, yeah, I'm doing really well. Fun. I'm doing what I'm should do.
Yeah.
And have you always written country or sang with country music?
Well, I obviously growing up in Tennessee. It's what I listen to.
Surrounded by
all the time. Yeah. So it's always what I wanted to do. But I actually didn't start writing until I moved out to LA. So I had, I was a singer my whole life, and I had wanted to write, but I didn't play a musical instrument. So I wasn't really, set up to write, at least by myself. And I moved out here for a boy. And just because this is the way that works, always, obviously, I got dumped as soon as I moved out here.
Well, sure, of course, right?
Obviously. I mean, like, that was just written in the
I'm willing to move across the entire country for you. And then,
yeah. So once that happened, I was already kind of on the line of being like I had, right before that breakup, I was like, I want to try to write a record, and I don't know what it's going to be about, and I don't know what I'm going to write about. And then I went through this breakup with my first long-term boyfriend. We'd been together for 7 years up until that point. Wow. And I was like, well, hot damn, I got something to write about.
Yeah. Oh my, so what year was this? Was this how recently?
This was in 2015. So yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's been 7 years. I mean, it's been a while since that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
But I mean, the crazy thing is that I never imagined that would be what kickstarted my writing, and that would snowball into, all of these other things. You just never know. But I was inspired. I was hurt. And that combination of things is just prime for some country music.
Right. So
I wrote this record with the help of some friends that I went to school with. Parker Welling, who's a huge country writer now, jumped on a few of the songs on that first EP. And then it kind of, like I said, snowballed after that. I just kept writing.
Did you write the record in LA, or was that something you did in Nashville, or?
Wrote a couple things in Nashville. I remember Parker and I did a bunch of, I think we did most of the rights over Skype. I have this picture of us like in my living room, and I had like projected her to the TV. So I'm like writing with her on my TV. So that's how we kind of wrote that record. And then it was only a 5-song EP.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember getting down there, and I had I felt like it was missing something, and I had wanted to title the record Dear John. John was the name of my ex, but it was just like a goodbye letter to him. So I met with Parker and our friend Haley Steele, who we all went to Belmont together, and they were like, we should just write the title track. And so we wrote the title track and stuck it as song number 6 on the EP.
So that's why that's the last song on the record?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, anyway, but man, I'd never talked about any of this stuff with, like, I feel like I have some like go-to subjects that people usually ask me. None of them are these.
I hope that's good.
No, that's fine. I've never talked about my high school experience like that. I've never talked about making this first EP a lot, because it's like, when I went to Belmont, I think a lot of people were just they were so careful about the first thing that they put out, because they just felt like it was going to define them like forever. And I just wasn't like that. I was like, I'm inspired to do this. Like, obviously my sound is going to change. Obviously the writing is going to get better, but I have to do this. I have this thing within my being that I have to write this project and put it into the world. And so I did. And obviously the sound has changed a lot over the past 7-8 years.
Right, which
it will. I'm so proud
will.
of that first record, because it did kind of 2 things for me. One, it kind of proved that I could do this thing that I had always wanted to write country music. But it's also interesting and fun to like go back and listen to it and realize that like I don't feel that way anymore. So like all this growth has happened just emotionally and over the years, and it just feels like a little bit of a diary.
Yeah, or like a little time capsule. That's essentially what records they should be for artists, I would imagine. It's kind of like this stamp of a time in your life, and you can go back to it and like, oh wow, yeah, I remember doing this, or I remember writing this song, or I remember putting out this project. It must have been pretty therapeutic to get that all out there.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I always loved that I got to do that, and loved that was kind of the genesis of my writing. So
you said you were talking about milestones or validations with that first time you had a standing ovation with thousands of people you sang to your school. What was the next one? Was it after you had put that record out, or prior, or what was kind of like the next big moment?
Man, I don't know. So that came out in 2015. I released this 3-song EP in 2016 that became the record that I released in 2017.
Yeah, Slow Down is that the whole album? Okay.
I remember, so I was recording that, and my buddy who produced it, Eric Halbig, was also working on some stuff with my friend Ty Herndon, and had played him some of the records. And then I just get this text message and was like, hey, Ty really likes this song and he wants to sing on it.
Wow.
And I was like, let the boy sing. Let him sing on it. And I remember that was Ty and I had been friends. We were neighbors in Nashville when I lived there, which is how we first met. But I remember that text coming through, and just, I don't know, it was kind of a weird shift for me, because I grew up listening to his music, and I think he just has like one of the most like quintessential like country voices. And here I was like trying to do this thing, and this person that I idolized so much growing up liked it enough to want to be a part of it. So I think that was probably my next big moment.
Sure. It was somebody you had listened to. Did you know Ty growing? in Nashville when you were living in Nashville, or no?
Yeah, he was my neighbor.
Oh yeah, neighbor. Sorry, I'm just like spaced totally on that part of
Yeah,
it.
no, yeah, that's how we met. We lived at this little this East Nashville, a place called Fifth and Main. It was like
Okay.
right across the river. And yeah, so that's how we met, and then we just became friends after that. But he knew me as when I first met him, I was dancing on a tour, so I wasn't writing and I wasn't singing. And so when I told him I was starting to make music, I think he was a little hesitant. He was like,
That's what I was
okay.
gonna. Yeah. So you weren't even writing songs yet at this point.
No, I wasn't doing, not in 2010, like 2009, 2010. So he came out to LA once, and this was before he had heard some of the record, and he was like, "Oh, so you want to make music now?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do it." And he was like, "I could just tell." He's like, he has no idea, like no clue whether or not I can write or even hold a tune. So it was really, so that I think that made that moment even better when he was like, "Okay, I'm in." Like, and
Yeah,
I want to
yeah.
sing on this thing. So
That's
that's cool.
cool. I interviewed Ty a couple of years ago. I thought I did, so I just quickly Googled it, and yeah, it was when Orphans of Gods came out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Orphans
Yeah.
of God. Yeah, it came out. I had a chance to chat with him. Super nice person.
Oh yeah, he's great. And you know, his new record, Jacob, is incredible. And he's just always been like kind of my mentor through this, you know, running down this path of what it is to be queer and, you know, in this country space. So
Which is, I'm sure, has to be, adds a whole nother layer of difficulty.
well, it has been something.
I guess that's the way to put it.
It's been something.
Okay.
No, I mean, like, it has, I wouldn't change a thing about it. And having Ty there to just like, you know, be a sounding board and just be like, I don't know, someone that is just proud of like the work and the fact that we're like making progress and getting to do things. Like, you know, when my video Hometown came out, he had invited me to watch the premiere at his place, and we sat down and watched this thing, and he just like cried. And I mean, I was emotional too, because it was like my coming out story and this song, and like, you know, that was in 2017, so it was all still pretty fresh to me anyway. And you know, still going through a lot. But he cried, and I realized in that moment, it was like this thing that I was able to do was something that he would have done 20 years ago, but he couldn't, because he lived in a world where it was more important to be straight than it was to be honest. And that sucks. Like that timing, you know, and just him sitting there by me and watching this thing, you know, watching this video. And I don't know, it was really special to me. And I've always been really grateful for his friendship.
Yeah, it's a sad video. You watch it, I mean, I can't imagine what you're going through, even shooting it. Like you can see in your face in the beginning of the video, like you have tears in your eyes.
Yeah, so the woman that plays my mother, her name is Janet Ivy Dunsing, and I have known her my entire life. We used to work together at Opryland. So this woman has known me since I was about 6 years old. And we were looking for someone to play my mother. I was like, there's really only one woman that can do it. Like, she's basically a mother to me. So, and she's an incredible actress. And so anyway, I was like, please come do this. And she showed up on set, and she goes, I'm going to hug you, and then I'm not going to talk to you for the rest of the day. And so we hugged when she first got there, and literally she wouldn't look at me. She wouldn't talk to me.
She wants to get in character.
She was in it. And she was in it. And then once we wrapped on day 2, she just gave me like the biggest hug. And she said, that might've been the hardest thing I've ever done. She goes, it was so hard to be mean to you.
Right.
It was so hard to be that mean to you. Anyway, so Yeah, it was a tough shoot, but man, I was so proud of the way that thing came out. My friend Trent directed it and just did this incredible job with it. And it's the thing I think people go back to, and at least queer people that reach out to me say that that's the song, that's the video that they like, I don't know, felt felt connected to, because it's
Mm-hmm.
it is a story that happens all the time. It happens all the time. And like, I think we as a, as a country, as a, population, we're like, well, that doesn't happen. There are people even in like the comment sections of, on YouTube or Facebook where they're like, this doesn't happen anymore. It happens all the time. It
Right.
happens all the time. And so
Mm-hmm.
like in this documentary that I did a few years ago, we interviewed these kids with from Nashville Launchpad, which is a charity organization that I work with in Nashville that take in homeless youth who just 90% of them just happen to be queer, but they give emergency shelter to these kids in Nashville in the Davidson County area.
Mm-hmm.
We interviewed a lot of them, and their stories are just so similar. I mean, to mine and to each other's. It's just parents, people that are supposed to care about their kids, these kids, and they kick them out for their something that they cannot change, their sexuality, their gender identity. They have no control over it, and they get kicked out, and they have nowhere to go, and they're scared, and they are financially not able to take care of themselves, and they need a place to go. So the story is very much relevant to me a decade ago and to kids today. And it's like, I made that and this documentary kind of for two reasons. One, so that people like me know that there have been people that have walked that road before, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that there's some healing and comfort and some solidarity, but also for families with queer people in them to see a story like Hometown, to see the documentary, for people that watched it, to realize that like, it just doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be this hard, and you can be better. You
Mm-hmm.
can think about what you're going to say. If you think that your queer brother, sister, family members about to, friends about to come out to you, because what you do say in those moments really matter, and they have a long lasting impact on that person. And so it's important. And, so I think, my hope was that it kind of served both of those purposes, that it would reach people like me and families with people like me in them. So yeah, I'm really proud of both of those projects.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the documentary, but that's such a cool organization that you help in that, because like you said, it's a story that hopefully will change soon, but who knows? I mean, it might be something that people are going through 15, 20, years from now. It just depends on, as far as like being kicked out and having that relatability, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't think it's ever going to completely disappear, right? There will always be bigots.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
I mean, it's kind of like, when Obama was elected and suddenly America's not a racist country anymore,
Right.
Racism doesn't exist. So, yeah, I'm not under any delusion that anything I can do will make it evaporate.
Mhm.
But I am, I do believe that I can help, and I believe that music, more than anything, is a great healer. So it's why sometimes I feel like I have incredible friends who do incredible things, and I feel like they're like game changers in the world. And I'm
Mhm.
like, what are you doing? Like, should I be doing something else to like make a bigger impact in the world around me? And then I think about how music touches my being, my soul. And then
Mhm.
I realized that things that I've written in this living room and in a dark studio in someone's basement have found their way to people that really needed them. And I don't know. I just never thought I'd be able to reach people like that. And so I feel grateful for that opportunity, and I want to keep doing it.
Yeah. I mean, to have I read that Hometown was premiered on CMT and it was the first ever LGBTQ plus video ever premiered on that network. That must have been a big, I mean, talk about a huge deal.
Well, there were there were other artists, obviously, other queer artists that had videos on the station, but this was the first time that like it was a queer story, right? Like it was a
Right.
coming out story, and it was about the fallout and about, you know, just watching, you know, watching it all unfold. And so I think for people that love country music but had never saw themselves in it, it was like that moment where it was like, oh, okay, wait. Country music is about storytelling, and that's my story. That is,
Right.
I know that story, you know, but until then, like, it wasn't really, there wasn't anything there for people like us. So it was
Wasn't
like,
it? Yeah, too much to connect to. There wasn't a lot of relatability.
yeah, I mean, like, and I love country music, but I mean, like, at some point, you know, I wanted to hear something that could feel, you know, that was
Mm-hmm.
mine. So anyway,
Sure.
I don't know. Yeah, it was a moment. It was a thing. Oh, but yeah, really
But
proud of that.
but that's very, very cool. Going into Three Chords and a Lie is just such a great title. That's all I really wanted to go to, just because, you know, Three Chords and the Truth is such a powerful, you know, it's just this line that everyone knows, especially in national and country music scene, and to change it up like that, I just thought that was such a brilliant.
Well, I have to give credit to I honestly think that my director, Trent, and my manager, Ryan, and I were emailing back and forth, spitballing titles. And I honestly think it was Ryan that came up with that title. But I love it so much because, you know, I did this interview with Stormy Warren years ago, and he was the first person to kind of say it like this, but it was like, you know, he's been in the industry for a long time. And so, and I think anyone that has knows that queer people pervade the country industry, like, right? Like any kind of artistic industry, you're going to find the gays, like they
Right.
are there. But the interesting thing is that in the country space, it was like, welcome to this world of storytelling. Oh, but by the way, don't tell yours. It's not
Right.
welcome in this space. So you're like, okay, well, country music is three chords and the truth. Unless your truth is that you are queer.
Right.
And
Unless your
then
truth doesn't align with our
right.
truths.
And I was like, okay, so I love the title. And it really, it was the crux of like, you know, I think my struggle in starting this journey, because, you know, it was tough to want to be honest about who I am and about
Mhm.
what I had been through, and tell that story honestly in a space that prides itself on honesty. But it was just this weird thing where it was like, okay, so not my truth, not my
Right, right,
honesty.
right.
But anyway, so
But
yeah, I was really happy with the way that it all shook out.
were you nervous at all about, I mean, even putting out Hometown or Hurt People? Like, are the, like, being that vulnerable and, you know, coming out and putting out something like that? Were you, I don't know what your relationship's like now with your family at all. Like, was that something you were afraid of getting backlash on or anything like that?
Not really. You know, someone was like, why was it so hard doing the documentary? And I was like, girl, you go try singing a song that you wrote about your mother in front of your crying mother.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, I mean, there, obviously it is, I try to write as honestly as I can about my experiences and what I went through and how I perceive them. And like, you know, I was in rehearsals for this tour that kicks off tomorrow
Hmm.
yesterday, and was talking about Hurt People. And I said, you know, I have always been able to recognize in my romantic relationships, the shit, can I cuss on this thing?
Yeah, you can cuss, say whatever you want.
That people carry around with them. Like, I can see it from a mile away because I got a bag of it myself that I
I
haul
like
around.
that.
Right. So like
Yeah.
I can see it when I'm like in the romantic sense.
Hmm.
But with family, like that was never something that I ever really considered. And looking back on it now, I realized that a lot of the things that I went through had nothing to do with me. They absolutely had nothing to do with me. But obviously, like, you take it in and you internalize it and you sift through it and you try to make sense of it. But a decade out, I'm realizing a lot of things I went through had to do more with the fact that, you know, the way my parents were raised, what they went through as kids, like what it was like being young adults and having 5 kids.
Right. I have 2
Like,
and I can't even imagine
that's a
having
lot.
5. Yeah.
So I think in like refocusing myself that way, it allowed me to kind of see them a little bit differently and realize, you know what? I know they're your parents. I know they're your siblings, your aunts, uncles, grandparents, but on a basic level, we are all human beings, fallible human beings, just trying to do the very best we can in this world. And like that, to me, brought me a lot of healing, and a lot of and an ability to kind of like breathe through those experiences. And you know, so that's where, you know, like Hurt People came from, and that song has been, you know, been so healing for me, and I hope it has been for other people that have heard it. But yeah, I think to answer your question, yes, it's tough, but would I change it? Would I do something differently? No, I wouldn't.
Okay. Looking at your new record, This Must Be the Place. Tell me about that. What was your mindset going into that album?
Well, about 2 months before the pandemic, I got dumped like a sack of potatoes.
Oh my.
Yeah, just out of the blue. No, I was dating this person for about 3 years going into like 2020, and we amicably split. But I was just like teed up for like a pretty terrible time when the world shut down. And that was early 2020. So the Hurt People EP was coming out that summer. And so and the documentary was that whole year, whatever. And by the time 2020 ended, I had no more tears to cry. I was like, I can't do it anymore. And I think even people, even though I wasn't doing like live shows, I was doing live streams and stuff. And people were like, look, girl, I love you, but I can't watch any more of your shows. I have no more tears to cry. So I was like, okay, I got to shift. But I was ready to do a record that felt new and fresh for me. And like, I had always straddled this line of when I would go in to write and record to be like, well, is it country enough? Like, am I straddling that line of doing this like kind of like pop country thing that I want to do, but is it country enough? And for this record, I was just like, fuck it. I'm just going to do whatever I want to do. And I had always been like really drawn to these, like, you know, I'm a kid of the 80s. So like, these big synthy sounds, like I really just like, I love that. And I always wanted to figure out how to put that into my music. So this was like the chance to do that. So that's kind of where the inspiration for the sound came in. And then once 2021 rolled around, I was driving around here in Hollywood and I found myself like singing in the car and just like smiling. And I realized that this was the moment. I was like, oh, like I'm kind of back. Like I haven't felt happy in a while because I just, the pandemic and the breakup and everything just felt so, and the record, just everything felt so heavy. That I was like, this is that space. This is that place, that like moment. Like I just wanted to like bottle it and channel it and like, and so that is what I felt like was the genesis of that record. I wanted that feeling to like pervade every song. And I love this record. I'm so proud of it. And I think it's like, it's, you know, it's got a whole bunch to it, but I think, you know, it's just a fun record. So
was it, I mean, it must have been different writing from that perspective, like more of a positive. It sounds like you finally found this moment where you're like, you know, I'm happy right now. Let's write, instead of coming from the place where it sounds like all your other music was from a place of hurt.
Yeah, it was definitely different. But I don't know. Yeah, so it was definitely lighter,
Okay.
which I needed. Yeah, and I wrote this with a handful of people. My friend Mylan, who co-wrote "Hometown Slow Down," a bunch of
Mhm.
my stuff. He co-wrote a couple of the songs. Fancy Haygood is a writer on co-wrote one of the songs with me. And then my friends Will, Jay, and Sam Creighton out here, they're just these great pop writers. We just had such a good time writing, and it was like no song ever took more than an hour. It just kind of like
Whoa.
flowed out. We wrote the title track in this living room in like,
That's
I
cool.
kid you not, like 30-40 minutes. Like it was just, everything just like made sense, and like it just felt, everything was easy.
Mhm.
So I think that comes across, like, just like it still feels country, but I mean, like, I see palm trees when I listen to this stuff, and
Uh-huh.
just like it feels breezy to me, and which is exactly what I wanted it to feel like. So yeah, came out.
Amazing. Did you write? I'm just curious because you talked about your first record being written over Skype, which totally dropped the ball. Like, what happened? How did Skype, shit the bed on having basically the full monopoly on video calls?
I have no idea.
But aside from that, were you able to Zoom or did you Zoom at all? And were you like, oh, okay, I remember doing this 5-7 years ago?
Well, surprisingly enough, we had most of them were in person.
Okay,
Like,
that's
I
good. I
think,
was just
yeah,
curious, knowing the parameters of how the world
I was trying to
was.
rethink, like, when I got vaccinated and stuff, and I'm like, oh, I'm about to tell on myself here.
I
I mean, like,
won't call the police.
pre-vax writing sessions.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I
Um,
was just curious if that, yeah, if you ever had, if that kind of, you had that, like, you were doing it before it was, a thing, so to
yeah,
speak.
yeah, a million years ago, but yeah, thankfully we got to do this one in person, so
I love it.
it's a lot
Well,
better.
very cool. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Brandon. This has been so much fun getting to know you. You're playing Nashville. I did see coming up, so excited about that, and congratulations on your tour. You said it kicks off tomorrow.
Yeah, we're playing the Venice West here in LA tomorrow, and then I do a quick little run to Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, and then I'm on the East Coast later this month. We start in New
Uh-huh.
York on the 19th, playing Nashville on the 24th, going to be at the
Yeah,
Analog at the Hutton Hotel.
that'll be cool.
Hometown Chattanooga, we're going to swing down there and play an acoustic
Oh,
show. And then
amazing.
the tour finishes up in Minneapolis, Minnesota on the 29th, 28th,
Amazing.
28th, I think.
Very,
28th.
very cool. Well, thank you so much again, Brandon. I have one more question before I let you go. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Yeah, I mean, I always say if I had waited for someone to open a door for me, that I would still be sitting behind a closed door.
I like that.
So if music is what you want to do and writing is what you want to do, pave your own path, make your own way, and just do it. Don't wait for someone to help you. Don't wait for someone to hold your hand. Don't wait for someone to give you a leg up or an opportunity. Just take it, run with it, do it.